our global food supply is very toxic. And so I learned this from the beginning. We started testing everything I ate in a third-party lab. This is a new time of existence that we are beginning to rival nature's powers. We successfully demonstrated elimination of microplastics in my ejaculate. We exist right now at the most insane moment in human history. We're giving birth to super intelligence. It is mind-blowing what's happening right now. And as we're doing that, we are basically a suicidal society. Think of me like an Olympian or I'm a new category of thing.
Are you a narcissist?
I'm a pretty nice guy.
Welcome to Thinkers on Times Radio. You know what we do here. We try and spend a bit longer with interesting people to get behind ideas, have more nuanced thoughts about how the world works, might work, should work in the future. Today, I'm dressed like this because we're going to talk about mind and body together, how you can make the one influence the other, how you can live a healthy and productive life. Can you live a life that never ends is ultimately the question we'll be asking. We're recording remotely today because we are talking to a greatly interesting figure, a man from Los Angeles. He's an entrepreneur, a venture capitalist, and most importantly, the man who thinks he can cheat death. He wants to cheat death and thinks he has ideas to do that. Bryan Johnson. Great to speak to you, Bryan. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, good to be here. You look great.
Oh, bless your heart. We won't get into that. Let's start at the beginning, Bryan. I'm so interested in what you're doing. We've spoken before, actually. Tell us about your project. It strikes me that what you're doing, you're living your life as a project. It's an expensive project, but it's one with a very interesting mission. Just clarify to us what you're up to.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to make sense of this project, I would give you some historical analogs. You know, when the Wright brothers said we can achieve flight, that was insane. In 1870, when people said, hey, there are these microscopic objects called bacteria and they cause infection, people said, that's insane. So over time, there have been new ideas which seem crazy to those that exist, and then they turn out to be true. And the idea that I'm suggesting right now is we are the first generation who won't die. That idea is crazy, and it breaks our brains, but that's what I'm doing.
And there's an interesting question there, because there's a crazy idea, and the way human beings do expand and break through obstacles is they have crazy ideas and they live them through. Is there a danger that your idea is fundamentally impossible? Is it actually possible to not die, to get to the point where your body doesn't break down?
I mean, there are analogs in biology already. You know, the hydra and certain species of jellyfish have the ability to rejuvenate themselves. So biology has shown it has the capacity to rejuvenate itself. So it's not like we're approaching physics and we say we needed to discover some modality that travels faster than the speed of light. This is shown in biology. We just need to demonstrate it in humans.
So what do you do? I mean, explain to some of our viewers. I mean, I think many of them will know who you are because what you're doing is so interesting. I think many people will have come across you. You're devoting your life to not dying. So that means you're spending a lot of money, making sure you eat right, making sure that you do whatever you can to protect the integrity of your body.
That's exactly right. So if we start with the basic idea, if we try to isolate that which kills you, you know, there are things which kill you suddenly, like being hit by a bus, and there are things that kill you slowly, like smoking a cigarette. And so there's a whole spectrum of things that kill you. And so what I've been trying to do over the past couple of years is identify every single thing that kills me and every single thing that makes me stronger, better, and age slower. And so I've become the most measured person in human history. We measure the biological age of every organ of my body, my heart, my liver, my lungs, my pancreas, my eyes, my gums, my teeth, everything. And then we say, let's look at the scientific evidence because we want the most robust evidence possible. Let's find the therapies that could work. And we apply those therapies and we measure my age again. We do it again and again and again. And so I basically have been trying to become the healthiest person on planet Earth through this scientific process.
So give us an example. What does that involve from a nutritional point of view? We'll talk about sleep and other things like that. But from a nutritional point of view, what does that look like for your life?
Yeah, we have a philosophy. Every calorie fights for its life. So every single thing I eat has to be a top performing molecule for health. For example, I don't eat any bread. I don't eat any pasta. I don't eat dairy. People now this is like, but let me be clear, you can eat whatever you want. Like I have no qualm with
Yeah,
people
yeah.
doing whatever diet they want. We have just simply tried to rank according to scientific evidence what are the most powerful molecules. So for example, I consume a lot of extra virgin olive oil, but of a very specific type that has high polyphenols and it's chemically tested in a lab. I eat a lot of lentils, legumes, a lot of vegetables, a lot of nuts, berries, seeds. So my that's primarily my diet, but we're very precise, and again, using scientific evidence to decide what to eat.
So do you drink anything other than water?
I drink coffee. I drink decaf coffee. I've just started that recently. I can't drink caffeinated coffee because I get addicted. Within 3 or 4 days, I have to drink it to feel normal, and so I just don't have a good relationship with caffeine. But yeah, I do. I drink about half a cup of decaf coffee with some macadamia nut that I make fresh.
And why do you do that? Why just not have coffee? If you can't have caffeinated coffee, why not have it? Why just have water?
It's a really enjoyable ritual. Yeah, I mean, and coffee has also benefits. Coffee has some polyphenols, so I kind of go in and out of these stages. I've done a matcha stage, I've done a coffee stage, so I'm just like always testing things out. But like for example, with the coffee, we third party test in a lab the coffee beans. So I test. So the thing, if we're going back to the idea of what kills you, our global food supply is very toxic. And so I learned this from the beginning. We started testing everything I ate in a third party lab. And so we started tracing down heavy metals and pesticides and herbicides. And so we really pay a lot of attention to what toxins are in food.
Can I ask you a philosophical question, Brian? Because
Yeah.
um, what are the, I think the core tenet of my beliefs is that the world is based around randomness. The reason we have a world that looks the way the world is, the reason why life has developed the way that life has developed, the engine of evolution is randomness. And therefore, an attempt to fight randomness, an attempt to say, I can control everything, is ultimately a futile attempt. Because
Mhm.
although you can control as many things as you possible and you can be completely compulsive in what you're doing, you can measure your pancreas, you can measure out your matcha, you can absolutely control your sleep and your environment. My argument to you will always be the world, that the physical law that is the most important in the whole world is randomness. That's what causes
Perfect.
cancer. That's what causes variation, which ultimately led to evolution. And you can't
Mhm.
fight randomness.
Mhm. Um, yeah, I mean, I think the human race is on this arc of being able to engineer reality with powers that were inconceivable. Da Vinci was able to in the 14th to 15th century, he was able to sketch out modern day mechanical accomplishments we've achieved. But he wasn't able to build it. He didn't have the technical infrastructure to do so. And I'd say now we basically, as a species, we are at the point where we can engineer reality at the level of an atom, of a molecule, of an organism. We can be at a nanoscale on a chip. We have unbelievable abilities to engineer reality with genes. And so I just say like this is a new time of existence that we are beginning to rival nature's powers, and it could flip that philosophy.
But can you plausibly stop genetic mutation, random mutation, which is, for example, can you say to me, I can live for the next 50 years and I know I won't get cancer because I can control mutation? And cancer is just
Yeah,
mutations. It's just a genetic mutation. That's what cancer is.
yeah.
Can you
I
stop
mean,
that happening? I'm not sure you can you? Or do you think you
yeah.
can?
I mean, I agree with your sentiment. You probably you can't stop entropy, right? If that's like a force, we're not going to be able to stop.
Yep.
But you probably can replace your liver. You can probably replace your heart, and
Okay.
you probably take an adult stem cell and turn it. Currently, if you look at the leading edge anti aging therapies, you we've shown you can take an adult cell and turn it into a pluripotent stem cell. You can go from absolute adulthood to kids. I mean, this is what happens in when a male and a female get together and you combine a sperm and an egg. Those aged sperm and aged egg get put back to zero to create a baby. Like our biology already does that. We already take 30-year-old cells and go back to zero. So biology does it for us. And so the mechanism is there for us to do and repeat in our own bodies.
So kind of what you're saying, Brian, is that you can't stop cancer, but if you measure yourself every day, you start to see some form of thing that could become a pre-cancer, if you like,
Yeah,
you can cut it out, you can get a new liver, you can get a new spleen, you can do all sorts of things like that.
exactly right. Yeah, that are basically, and if you find cancer in the earliest of stages, you're 80% more likely to be successful. And so if measurement gets good, if you could actually detect the actual day where a cancer cell is created in the body and the body doesn't, get rid of it, remediation at that point is so much easier than like when it, grows. So I'm saying that we can definitely take proactive approaches, even though we can't inherently control biology at that level at this point. We definitely can exert a lot of power and influence over detection, rapid response.
So how often do you measure yourself? That's a really interesting thing to me because uh, there's 24 hours in the day. We'll get to sleep in a moment, but how long do you spend the day measuring yourself?
I mean, my morning routine is 4 hours, in terms of like my exercise and whatnot. Probably spend about 2 hours a day doing measurements, therapies, doctors, etc. I mean, it's a full time job. By the time you calculate my everything I do, my morning routine, sauna, exercise, hyperbaric oxygen therapy, all the work I do on my foods, that's a full time job.
Have you found anything? Have these endless proddings and probings of doctors and measurements? Have you ever found something and thought, "Oh, that's going wrong. I need to fix it"?
So many things, like just like I'll tell you, like one of the thing that happened last week is we successfully demonstrated elimination of microplastics in my ejaculate and my blood. And so
Okay.
microplastics are a major issue, and they're in all of us. They're in the ocean, they're in our bodies, and they lodge themselves in our brains, in our testicles, in the ovaries. They lodge themselves all across our body, and they create all kinds of disruption in our hormones and all kinds of things. And so I demonstrated through my protocol, I dropped my microplastic levels by 87%
How'd you do that?
in my we believe it was sauna. So no one in the world has been measuring microplastics in the ejaculate, for example, and then doing therapies to see if they can remedy it. Like there's been examples to show that like some stunning number of people have microplastics in their ejaculate. I think it's like 100% maybe. Um, and so what we do is we discover these things because we measure so much and everything. We measure absolutely everything, and so we're able to find these things. So yeah, it was basically a dry sauna, 200 degrees Fahrenheit, 20 minutes a day with ice on the boys. So, we did this experiment where we showed if you do sauna and you don't ice, it annihilates your fertility markers.
Yeah.
It took mine down by 50%. And when you apply ice, it actually we're not sure if it was from the ice or sauna. My fertility markers improved. So right now, my fertility markers I'm 48 years old are better than 99.8% of all men.
I don't want to be a delicate here, Brian. When you're icing, are you sitting in a hot sauna with ice around your balls? Is that what you're saying?
That's right. So cotton underwear, cotton shorts,
Yeah.
take a plastic-free, toxic-free ice pack, put it in between the cotton underwear and cotton shorts. So in the sauna, ice. Otherwise, you reduce your fertility markers by 50%. Now, a lot of men will say like, doesn't matter. I'm not trying to have a baby. I don't
Yeah.
care. You do care,
Why?
because the bad fertility markers have a feedback loop. So they have other complications in the body. So at no stage of your life do you want bad fertility markers. Even independent of wanting to have kids, you always want to have great fertility markers.
Uh, Again, I'll try and phrase this delicately. How often do you measure your ejaculate?
Now, it depends on what we're doing, but we like weekly.
Weekly.
Yeah.
Is there any point when you're measuring your ejaculate you think, how have I ended here? How have I ended up here, Brian? I've
It's so funny. I have the opposite thought. I think, why isn't everybody else doing this? It's
why
like,
is why is everyone not
what,
measuring their ejaculate?
why, like we are like our primary biological purpose as a species is to reproduce.
Yeah.
Why are we oblivious? It's so weird that there's like this stigma and sensitivity around it. Like that is our essence, like our ability to produce babies
Well,
and our
actually,
ability to be fertile.
there's an interesting sociological point here, Brian, that you could make the case in the civilized world in the last 20 years that's disappeared. That The
Fi-
notion that we're here to reproduce has gone. That's why we have the falling birth rates everywhere. People say actually priorities in life mean
Yep.
we shouldn't be having more children.
Yep. There's a 50% decline in fertility over the past 50 years. And that's what I'm saying. Like, why am I the only person doing this? This is crazy. We've had this absolutely catastrophic decline in fertility globally. Why is it, why am I the weird guy doing this?
Well, I'll tell you why you're the weird guy doing it, Bryan, to an extent, is because you can afford to do it and you can afford to have children. I wonder whether, the real reason the number of children has dropped is a good thing. The education of women. Wherever there's education of women, women enter the workplace, women have equal rights with men, and the notion of women as just carriers of children disappears. And that is, I think, has a roll-on effect that you have fewer children. I suspect in a world where there is perfect equality and perfect financing, we would have a higher birth rate. But that's not a biological problem, that's a sociological problem.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is the thing, I guess, like, my whole thing is I'm not a rich guy trying to live forever. That's what the headlines want you to believe.
Yeah.
I am an explorer calling attention to the fact that we exist right now at the most insane moment in human history. We're giving birth to super intelligence. It is mind blowing what's happening right now. And as we're doing that, we are basically a suicidal society. We commit slow death suicide on a daily basis by eating junk food, fast food, porn, scroll, like, and we just don't see it. And that is like living life. That's like, if you're doing that, it's like, good job, bang on. But we're addicted. Like all of our economic powers in the world have pointed at addicting humans to bad stuff to make us weak. And so what I'm pointing out is like, hey guys, this is not a good situation. First order of business is get to bed on time. Don't eat garbage. Exercise every day. Be mindful of toxins. Like, I'm really trying to like baseline society to say we can do this. I'm trying to not say you need money to do it. I'm trying to say we can create good habits. Everybody can, independent of whatever money they have.
But you're addicted to this, Bryan. I mean, it strikes me that talking to you, you've got to a point now where this is absolutely at the center of your existence. You've become, in the same way that people get addicted to exercise, people get addicted to controlling their food. I'm guilty of both of those things to a certain extent. You've taken that where it strikes me you're addicted to yourself.
Yeah, I mean, if people love to use that frame. Capitalism is the most broadly played game of the world, right? By far. You need money to exist. Are not most people addicted to capitalism?
Well, I'm sure that's right.
So like people try to single me out of being like, they want to like pay, they don't know how to think about me, right? So like when I started doing this, they're like, is he like Patrick Bateman? Is he Dorian Gray? Is he Prometheus? Yeah. Is he a biohacker head? Like, what is he? Like, I don't know. They don't know what to say. And I was trying to tell people, like, I get it. I'm not a category. It's understandable. I'm a rejuvenation athlete. Think of me like an Olympian I'm a new category of thing.
Are you a narcissist?
I'm a pretty nice guy.
I'm not saying you're not a nice guy. I think you can be both. I'm just worried that I'm not worried. I'm interested. Would you say to yourself, are you not the act of measuring yourself constantly in order to check up on yourself means that you are some would say is an example of narcissism. It's over centering yourself in your own view of the world. Yeah.
I measure myself for the benefit of the human race. I am not as one individual. I have a very limited capacity to do anything for myself. I don't make any drugs I take. I don't make any food that I consume. Like I do nothing. And so like I live in this broader ecosystem and I'm extremely self-aware. This is a multiplayer game with a global group. I don't make the AI. So like, no, like this is not a Bryan Johnson thing. This is like, hey, we're a team as a species on this planet. It's a pretty epic moment. So I try to share everything so like we all can be on the same team.
Do you have fun? Because that's the other thing. I'm sure people will say to you, you get up in the morning, you're doing 4 hours, you're icing your balls, you're in your sauna, you're measuring this, that, and the other. We'll get to sleep in a second, I promise. But is that fun?
Yeah. So I'll tell you that this is funny. So this is like the most common question, and you were very generous in asking it as a question. Most people accuse me, but he's not living life, right? Yeah. So what humans do is when humans identify something that makes them feel low status or makes them feel inferior, they flip the moral framework to make themselves feel superior, right? And that question is fundamentally that humans want to feel okay with themselves
Yeah.
and they want to feel superior to me. So they say to me, but Bryan, you're not living life. And that flips it for them. So they say, like, I'm soothed that what I'm doing is okay. And what Bryan is doing is somehow lower status because I got him. And so what I'm trying to say is it feels shitty to not sleep well. It feels shitty to be fat. It feels shitty to be hungover. It feels shitty to eat junk food. Nobody wants that. We all feel shitty. We know we feel shitty. There is no virtue in doing that for anybody.
Let's talk about sleep, Brian, because I have a job on a breakfast radio program. So I get up at 2:30 in the morning, 4 days a week to go to work. And
Yeah.
I worry about it because I go to bed at 8:30 at night. So I get 6 hours sleep. But I worry that I'm not sleeping well, and that's a professional part of my existence. And that's just I think I have to do to pay the bills, and I accept that.
Yeah.
You regard sleep as really important. I think last time we spoke, you told me that you have a sort of alarm that goes off in your house early, and you and your family, your kids, as soon as the alarm goes off, you have to go to bed because going to bed at the right time is massively important.
That's right. Yeah. Sleep is the number one longevity therapy in the entire world. Nothing performs better than sleep. Nothing. And so, yeah, I've built my entire life around sleep, and our family is a family of sleep culture. So we all acknowledge that when we don't sleep well, we're grumpy and we're not as fun to be around. We're not as sharp. So yeah, we built our entire life around sleep. And so I have a very regimented routine. So like very simple things, like if your bedtime's 10 p.m., to have your final meal of the day at 6 p.m., that 4 hour break of not eating helps your body digest food. It lowers your heart rate, lowers your body temperature, increases melatonin production. Turning screens off 60 minutes before bed, it's a great practice.
So what time
Don't
do you go to bed?
scroll.
Yeah, what time do you go to bed, Brian?
8:30.
It's same as me, actually. I go to bed
Yeah.
at 8:30. What time do you get up?
Around 4:30.
4:30. Okay. And do you feel good
Yeah.
at 4:30?
I feel amazing at 4:30.
So what's the lesson to people? I have one meal a day. I eat at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I don't eat again. I eat once a day. Uh, because of this routine, I've got to go in for work, and that means
Yeah.
I can go to bed at 8:30. I go to sleep. I feel okay about it. What's the number? So would you say, do you need 8 hours? Do you need 9 hours? Do you need to not
Yeah.
scroll? Give us a couple of sleep tips. 'Cause I think sleep is probably the thing that makes most people most anxious, possibly in the whole world.
Yeah. Let me run through this really fast. What you want is 2 hours of deep sleep, 2 hours of REM. You want to be asleep within 2 minutes of your head hitting the pillow, and you want to be up zero times per night. That's ideal. So if you're not there, like let's make progress to get there. So here's like the really basic tips. One, choose a bedtime and go to bed at the same time every single night, plus or minus 15 minutes. Be precise. The body has a routine. Put it on schedule. You can't go to bed at 2 or 3 hours later and be like, I'm going to wake up in the morning later. You can't. The body has a routine. The trash collector comes through to pick up the trash in your body at the time it's prescribed. If you miss your bedtime, you don't get the trash factor rolling through your body. 2, 4 hours before you go to bed, have your last meal snack. 2, turn screens off 60 minutes before bed. No scrolling, no fighting, no texting, no work. 60 minutes. Read a book. Put a book in hand, read the book. 3, red light, no blue lights, no screens. Watch your stimulant. So 12 noon is your last cup of coffee. Like if you do, and then that 60-minute wind down routine, spend it calming your body down. Like go through, like journal, talk to a friend. I go through a psychological process where I try to adjust all Bryan's needs, but like create a structured, I have this a YouTube video on this. So like create a structured routine to calm yourself down, be to bed on time. It will change your life.
And actually, that doesn't take any money. And whatever people think about the extent to which you're experimenting on yourself, I think very few people would argue that that type of thing is a sensible notion in this world that we live in.
100%. And the reason why this is so good is because most people's bad habits spike in the last 2 hours before bed. They're worn down, they have low willpower,
Yeah.
and all the catastrophic behavior happens right there. And that catastrophic behavior destroys your sleep. So that's why this nighttime routine is so important. Is like you're trying to basically wrestle the worst parts of yourself.
Can I ask you about drugs, Brian? Because
Yeah.
I don't know if this is a recent thing, but I've seen it more recently with you. You're experimenting with drugs, with magic mushrooms.
Yeah.
Why are you doing that? I mean, there's quite a lot of research on microdosing of magic mushrooms and how it might affect your well-being. What are you looking at, and what have you discovered?
Yeah. we are always on the lookout for therapies that can slow down my speed of aging or reverse aging damage. So, for example, some of the top performers have been sauna, hyperbaric oxygen therapy, nutrition, diet, exercise. There's recent evidence that psilocybin, the active in magic mushrooms, is potentially a longevity therapy. So we are exploring psilocybin magic mushrooms as a longevity therapy. I started the protocol. I'll do 3 sessions over 90 days. I'm measuring 249 biomarkers. It's the most quantified psychedelic experiment in history. So we're going to start looking for markers. Does it lower inflammation? Does it change pathways in the brain in certain ways? So we're trying to search, is there a path for psilocybin to be identified as a longevity therapy?
And are you high when do you feel high?
Yeah, it's a psychedelic trip.
And how do you feel about that? Because that's kind of, it's, some people would say that's not in accordance with your philosophy, which is quite a purist philosophy. This is that there are sort of pleasure aspects to this, or psychedelic aspects to it. How do you feel getting high?
Yeah, I mean, so first of all, I have no limitation. Like I don't have a philosophy that limits purity or human experiments, whatever. Like my whole thing, measure, look at scientific evidence and measure. Like follow your path. We're looking at evidence that says that is actually the psychedelic experience itself is an anti-aging therapy. So we've been measuring my brain for days before, the entire time afterwards. So we're looking at that as a potential therapy itself. So again, we've cast a really big net to say, are there things that can lead us down a path to see what effects does that have in the brain? For example, I saw from my brain data, from my psychedelic therapy, it dramatically reduced the age of my functional mind. It took me back to a very youthful state.
Explain that. Explain, what does that mean? Is there solid science for that?
As you age, your brain gets more rigid. You experience less novelty. You're more fixed in your brain patterns. And psychedelics, magic mushroom psilocybin just washes it, where it releases this control in the default mode network, and you have much more youthful network brain activity patterns. So it takes you to a much more youthful state where you experience things in a novel way again. You feel more kid-like. You experience novelty in the world in which you felt as a younger person. So yes, it has that.
I've kept you longer than I probably should have done, because it's so interesting talking about this stuff. It's really a pleasure to speak to you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Thanks to everyone for watching. It's a fascinating experiment. We want to maybe check back with you in a year's time, see how you're doing.
We'd love to.